Please pray with me. Dear God, I just ask that you come into this place and that you help me to preach. May you take these words that I've written, the things that I've come up with, I'm going to say, Lord, and just bless them. If they are what these people need to hear, I ask that you open their ears, open their hearts to receive your word. Lord, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts, may that be acceptable in your sight. May that bring joy to your heart. For you are our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. There's a historian named Thomas Costain who tells a story in one of his books. It's called The Three Edwards, where he describes the life of Reinoud III, who was Duke of Gelders in what is now Belgium. That was way back in the 1300s. Now, Reinoud III, apparently he was kind of a big guy. His nickname was Crassus, which is Latin for fat. He was literally Reinoud the Fat. This is his nickname. And one day he got in a fight with his younger brother Edward, who then led a successful revolt against him. So Edward captured Reinoud, and he built a tower room around his brother. And he said, you can have your title back when you can get out of that room. Now the problem, of course, was his size. He was too big to get out of the room. And so if he wanted to regain his title, he needed to diet his way out of prison. But his brother Edward knew Reinoud very well, and every day he would send up a huge plate of delicious treats. And so instead of dieting his way to freedom, he actually gained weight. He was in that room for 10 years. And he only regained his throne when Edward actually died in battle. And then they went to go free him. They had to tear a chunk out of the wall to get Reinoud III out of his tower prison cell. And his health after 10 years, it was so destroyed, he only lasted a few months in leadership before he died, a prisoner of his own appetite. Today is the last sermon in our series on the cards in the devil's hand, on the 7 deadly sins. Now first we talked about pride. And we discovered that pride is not a bad thing, but we want to be proud of God working through us and not of our own efforts. And then the week after that, we talked about the God-given gift of desire and how that can be twisted into lust and greed. Desire is a good thing. It's a fantastic thing. That's why God gave it to us. But we're supposed to express and chase desire inside the framework of what God has given us that's healthy for a good life. And then last week, we talked about wrath and envy, and to our surprise, we discovered that those are actually godly traits, and that we need to pursue the divine version of those and throw away the human, the broken, the corrupted version. Today, we're going to discuss the final 2 7 deadly sins, sloth and gluttony. And just like last week, we might be surprised what we find. And so we get started in our scripture lesson for today. We're going to start in 2 Thessalonians chapter 3. Verse 11. Actually, let's back up to verse 10. It says, even while we were with you, we gave you this command: those unwilling to work do not get to eat. Yet we hear that some of you are living idle lives, refusing to work and meddling in other people's business. Now, I have a quick note on that. I want to point out that it says refusing to work. It does not say unable to work. This is very important. The troublemakers in Thessalonians are those who could work but choose not to. See, Paul has a very different message of compassion and care for those who are unable to work. Do you see the distinction? This is very important. The scripture is very clear. We need to take care of those who are unable to work. At this time period, there were no government programs, no social structures, no safety nets. If you were unable to work, you starved. You were on the streets begging. I mean, it's not like it is now, but that's how it was back in that day. And so the scripture is very clear. We need to provide for those who are unable to work, the least among us. But Paul has very harsh words, but he reserves those for those who refuse to work. They could work, but they do not. In fact, he points out that when we don't have enough to do, when capable people refuse to work, it leads to meddling. When we don't have enough to do in our life, we turn on one another just to fill the time. A little side note, this is not about earning money, right? If you're retired or if you're a spouse that doesn't have to earn money, that's not what this is about. This is about having a productive life. Even if you're retired, you still need to do things. We need to stay active. We are designed to do good work in the world, to have purpose in our lives. Otherwise, we turn on each other and we start problems. We start fights out of boredom because we are searching for a purpose. And so we keep reading in Thessalonians, and it says in verse 12, it says, we command such people and we urge them in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ to settle down and work to earn their own living. As for the rest of you, dear brothers and sisters, never get tired of doing good. As Dave Ramsey's grandma says, the best place to go when you're broke is to work. This is very simple, very practical advice. Quit meddling, settle down, and get to work. But then it continues in verse 14 and 15. It says, take note of those who refuse to obey what we say in this letter. Stay away from them so that they will be ashamed. But don't think of them as an enemy, but warn them as you would a brother and a sister. Now these verses can be very personal to us because I think we all know someone like that. There's one in every family. There's two in mine. We all know someone who could work, but chooses not to, right? We hear stories about people who they're not really in need, they're just taking advantage of the system. And so the first thing that we pull from the text is accountability. We need to gently urge those in our lives to settle down, quit meddling, and get to work. Sometimes the people in our lives need a little nudge. We need to speak the truth in love and encourage them. But see, verse 14 needs verse 15. That's why I added that. I can't have just verse 14 because it says we can't think of them as enemies. Condescension and self-righteous attitudes are like molasses on motivation. You understand what I mean? Condescension. If you're condescending and if you're a little bit self-righteous when you're trying to help someone, that's actually going to slow them down. They're going to dig in their heels just because they don't like you, just because they don't like the way you're doing it, right? If you're condescending, you're not going to help anyone. It's a tough challenge that we've got in front of us in order to encourage people to hold them accountable, but to do it in an effective, loving way. Scripture's advice says, don't think of them as enemies. Think of them as you would a brother or a sister. You see, there's a relational component to accountability. If you want to reach someone, you need to get down and engage with them. You can't judge them from afar and tell them you need to do this. You need to have a relationship with someone if you're going to change them. You need to love them if you're going to help them. The title of this sermon is Weary or Lazy. Are you weary? Are you actually exhausted? Or are you just lazy? And I think a lot of people get these mixed up. Here's how that works. I think there's a lot of lazy people out there who believe that they are weary. Oh, I'm so weary in my life. And it's like, no, I'm maybe just a little bit lazy. But on the other side, I think there's a lot of weary people who are beating themselves up because they say, oh, I'm just being so lazy. And it's like, no, you're not lazy. You're just exhausted. You're so weary from the world crushing you. Now, our first scripture lesson covers the lazy, right? Thessalonians talks about the lazy. It's a very simple solution. Quit meddling, settle down, get to work. That's what we do with the lazy people. But the second scripture, the one in Matthew, covers the weary. Now, these are very beautiful words. These are very familiar. And Jesus said to them in verse 28 in chapter 11, "Come to me, all who are weary, carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls." I believe the majority of our culture is weary. I think we are just beat up. We are exhausted all the time. We are weary to our core. But the good news this morning is that God gives us rest. You can see it in the story of creation, right at the beginning of Genesis, right at the beginning of the Bible. God created the entire universe in 6 days, and then on day 7, what did he do? He rested. Why? Why would God rest? He's God. He doesn't need a break, right? His productivity halted, his ratio of effectiveness tanked. I mean, why would he intentionally pause, take a break, and wait, and just do nothing for a whole day? Why would he do that? It's for us, it's for you, it's for me, to show us how this is, to give us, to set a precedent of rest in our life, to set a rhythm for us to follow every week of our lives. We need to take a rest. God gives us rest. Jesus says, "Come to me, all who are weary, and I will give you rest." Let's look a little bit closer at that phrase. Give you rest. I will give you rest. Why does Jesus have to give us rest? I mean, can't I just take rest by sleeping in a little bit more? Can't I just take my rest by, taking more breaks, watching a little bit more TV, going out to camp, going fishing, something like that? Can't I just take my rest? Why does Jesus say, "I will give you rest"? Why does he have to give rest? What we will find, just like anger and lust and pride and all the other 7 deadly sins, what we're going to find is that there is a God-given version of rest, and then there's a human version of rest. And I think as a culture, we are starting to realize that human rest is not enough. Now, to illustrate my point, I wanted to show you something this morning. I don't know who has it. We move to the next slide. There it is. There's what do they call him? He's a photographer, Eric Pickersgill, and he did a set called Removed. And we can click, there's actually a couple of slides. Now what he did is he took pictures of everyday life, and then he removed one thing. What's missing from these photos? I don't know if you can see closely. Cell phones, devices. They're not holding these things. Now there's two things that I pulled from this that I noticed from these really kind of depressing pictures. First is the loneliness. I mean, they're 3 inches away from each other in some of these pictures, and yet they seem so alone. And the other thing that I just kept pulling from these pictures is the exhaustion that you see on their faces. They just seem so tired. In our modern version of rest, it's not very restful, is it? Even in our downtime, we are constantly putting more in our faces, constantly keeping our brains stimulated and sedated at the same time. We are weary. Can we affirm that? Can you repeat after me, please? I am weary. You are weary? I am weary. We are weary. But guess what? It's not sleeping in that's going to make us feel better. Maybe. But no, it's not sleeping in that's going to make us better. It's not taking another break that's going to make us feel better. It's God that you need. Don't take the human version of rest and be forever disappointed. Jesus says, come to me, all who are weary, and I will give you rest. We take the divine rest that Jesus offers. That's Sabbath. Sabbath is not the same as a Saturday, right? Sabbath is rest for your soul, which includes church. Go to church. Every week you need to go to church. And I know a lot of people say, well, I can worship God out there. No, you have to take a pause. You got to come into this place, leave your burdens at the door, come into this place and find rest for your soul, find the comfort that Jesus offers. Here's the thing. A lot of people think that gluttony and sloth are all about too much, like the fat duke in the tower, right? It's too much food, too much sleep, too much. But the truth is that gluttony and sloth are actually more complicated than that. The problem with gluttony and sloth is that the truth is that we fall into the trap of confusing means with an end. Food and rest are means to an end. We eat to fuel our body. We rest to fuel our soul. They are means, not ends. Now don't get me wrong, I love food. Okay, I love food. And I love sleep, right? I enjoy relaxing just as much as the next guy. But we have to remember that they are means to an end. We rest and we rejuvenate so that we can get back to work. Now remember, I'm not just talking about your job, right? I'm not talking about just how you earn money, but that's included. I'm talking about we need to live lives of purpose, productive lives of purpose. God has a plan for your life, a purpose for you to fulfill, and I bet it doesn't rhyme with Netflix or Cinnabon. Ooh, Cinnabon. A farmer doesn't plow a field so he can go back and take a nap. He takes a nap so then he can go plow a field, so that he can be rested and ready when he needs to get back out there and get things done. We have this a little backwards in our culture, don't we? We work for the weekend. We work hard so we can go back to the couch, or back to camp, or back to wherever. But the goal, and again, there's nothing wrong with taking a vacation. That's not my point here. There's nothing wrong with that, but we have to remember the purpose. Our goal should not be vacation. The goal should be to be rested and rejuvenated so that we can be restored and continue to do good work. Sloth and gluttony show up in our lives when we elevate the means and we make them the goal of our life. When we take our eyes off the prize and we focus on the means instead of the real goals of life. The application this morning is very simple. Take a Sabbath. Take a Sabbath. Now there's two key words there. God gives you rest. We need to take that word. The first word is take. You have to take it. The world is not going to give it to you. We don't live in that world anymore. You have to take your Sabbath. If you are waiting for the day when the world's going to tell you, go ahead, pause, take a break, go ahead and honor your God, it's never going to happen. You're going to be waiting for the rest of your life. We have to turn off everything, make it a priority. We have to carve out the time. Take your Sabbath. Now the second key word there is Sabbath. The application this morning is not watch more Netflix or take more naps, right? This is the point. We need to take a Sabbath to focus on God so that we can rest, so that we can get back to work. We take a rest to focus on God because God is the answer to the weariness of our soul. More than sleep, more than anything else. Now the second part of our application is to keep our eye on the prize. Don't confuse the means with the goal. Means with the end. Jesus says in Matthew, "Come to me, all who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest." We carry the heavy burdens of the entire world on our shoulders every single moment of every day, and we are tired. Or we carry them in our pocket as our cell phones become a leash to our culture. You know those notifications and how they're just constantly pulling you back? I'm not going to look at Facebook, but then that little annoying red circle shows up, and I just got to get rid of it, so I have to turn open, I have to open, and then we look like that, right? We've become slaves to these things. Come to Jesus once a week. Lay down those burdens for 1 hour once a week. It's not too much to ask. Leave your burdens at the door. Lay them down at the foot of Jesus and say, for an hour, I'm going to pause. I'm going to focus on you. I'm going to restore my soul. Come to this place. You have to put down the burdens of the world if you're going to take up the teachings of Jesus. Verse 29, he says, "Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I'm humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden that I give you is light." The burden I give you is light. I love that word, yoke. He says, take my yoke, because of how a yoke works, right? It's that thing, that big wooden thing that connects like the horse or some other animal to the plow. And if you have multiple animals connected to the yoke, it lightens the burden. And so Jesus, we take up the yoke with Jesus and we share the burden, and he will make our burden light. So first, you got to take that Sabbath. You have to be intentional about it or it won't happen. And then second, we have to keep our eye on the prize. Don't confuse the means with the end. We become co-workers with Jesus, building God's kingdom here on earth. And that's it. That's the 7 deadly sins and how to deal with them. Sometimes I wish life was a little easier. Just a little bit more black and white. This is good, this is bad. That would be so simple, wouldn't it? If we just knew all the time. But the world is more complicated than that. God has given us these fantastic things. And in response, we have come up with very clever ways to corrupt them and mess them up. But with vigilance and discipline, we can overcome. The devil has tipped his hands. We have seen the cards that are in his hand. And with God's help, you can walk the life in the light. The path of life in the light. And so I'll leave you with this. May you be vigilant in your battle with the darkness that life throws at you. May you have discipline to overcome. And may you remember that Jesus walks with you every step of the way so that we can have hope for a better tomorrow.